Good morning, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. And thank you for joining. And we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. No, we're still celebrating Black History Month, and there are lots of myths surrounding the history of Black History Month, right? And Black people in general. And I think that humanity in general is actually floating in a sea of lies in terms of how we came about and what role we have, what mission we have to play in this world. And some of the wars that are being waged around these lies that we tell ourselves. And it's not only Black people that are telling lies about themselves, we're talking about humanity. And I said before, as I intimated before, that a lot of times it has to do with the role that we should play in this world. Some of us see ourselves as being superior. So the people from Europe, during the transatlantic slavery, they thought that they were superior, which they are not, right? And it is a psychological defect, I should say, that people who think themselves to be superior are lacking something. And when you take that away from them, they can get very violent. So even now in the United States, where we have the economy not being in the best condition right now, you can expect at any given moment racial tensions. Because anytime you see where, a particular group which has for over the years thought itself to be superior and realizes that the foundation on which he or she stands is shaky, is rocky, and is built on sand, then therefore that person is going to react. Today we're going to be looking at Bob Marley and how did Bob Marley die? There are many conspiracy theories online surrounding his death. And there are people who seem to be very, very aware, or they seem to hold on to their particular ideology and are not willing to, you know, research or to delve in any other matter or any other, facts or, viewpoint, whatever. The fact of the matter is he died. And it is still uncertain as to how, the cancer, we know that he died of cancer. And there are people online when you say that, yes, he has died of cancer and it was very questionable, the cancer, they just say, well, he died of cancer and we should accept that that is so. And that is probably perhaps true that, we can't do anything now to change that the man has died. But we should also be concerned as to the factors or the actors who were perhaps behind his death. Well, we know that Bob Marley was a Rastafarian, particularly, for the most part of his life. Of course, it's now being alleged that he became a Christian, and the priest, the Orthodox priest, the priest that belonged to the Orthodox Ethiopian Church, or the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, I should say. Right, he testified in 2005, somewhere in New Jersey, that he actually baptized Bob, and Bob became a full-fledged member of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. So that seems to be a fact. It seems to be a fact that he was in fact, or he was converted into the Christian faith. And that is no surprise, right? Because we know that Bob knew that he was dying, and that, for example, that Haile Selassie had died in 1975. This immortal being that they thought had come and was representing Christ. They realized that he died, and Christ does not die. He came to die for our sins, but he is an immortal being. God, Christ the God in him did not die, right? The humanity died, but God cannot die. Just like how God cannot lie, he also cannot die. But Haile Selassie, a normal human being, a mortal like you and I, he died. And I'm sure that would have bothered Bob. It seems to me that somewhere in the latter part of the 1970s, that's 1978, thereabout 77, Bob went to Ethiopia and he went to the Orthodox faith and he was doing his research and he must have found out that, this whole matter of this Rastafarianism is not built on truth. Now, one of the things that we need to look at when we look at his death, we need to look at his revolutionary method, music, his revolutionary message in his music. And so often he understood that this world was in a war because, well, he was in a war because he was alive during the Cold War. Remember now that Bob died before the Cold War ended. And even after the Cold War's ending, we can see that we're still engaged in war. This world has never been without wars, right? We are constantly being wars. Some of the wars are big and some of them are smaller wars. But, whether they're small or they're big, they are wars, correct? Now, Bob was spreading that, war is going to always be if people do not confront the reality. And until we decide to dispense justice to all humanity, I think he had a song titled War. There will always be war because we need to be able to live as human beings. We are part of a human family, not black and white and purple and yellow, whatever you want to call yourselves, right? We are all children of God, right? At that point, he was calling us children of Jah, right? That is essentially who we are. We are just one blood, one race of humanity. But we know that in our world today, particularly in the West, Western leaders do not consider, particularly those in America and in Western Europe, do not consider everybody on par with them because they have power. And we know that absolute power corrupts absolutely, as Lord Action said. So Bob, in 1977, thereabout, was diagnosed with melanoma cancer. He was playing football. I think it was in New York. Somebody could correct me. Somewhere along he was playing football because, soccer, what Americans call soccer, because Bob was a lover of football and he played a lot of that. And what happened eventually is that he found himself, I think he might have fainted or he felt a pain in one of his toes, in his big toes. And he went to see the doctor. Having seen the doctor, he realized that he had cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer. But Bob, because of his faith in Rastafarianism, in the Rastafarian religion, decided that he would not undergo any treatment because he thought that, you could seek natural cures and that Jah eventually would cure it. In fact, he also thought that there were healing remedies in marijuana, that the ganja that he smoked so often would also help in the healing process. Okay, neither did the ganja nor Jah or the religion able to have helped him. And he continued with that tool, even though it was advised that he should cut it off, because in subsequent years, it realized that the cancer was actually metastasizing and that it was important for him to get rid of that tool. He decided that he wasn't going to get rid of the tool. But we know that by 1979, 1980, that the cancer started to spread all across his body. At one point, Bob went to a hospital, I think it might have been in New York or in Miami, and they told him that the doctor told him that he or she had never seen cancer that spread throughout the body like his. His entire body was filled with cancer. And they gave him only a year or so to die, very short period of a window of time to die, because at that time the cancer had spread too rapidly and too much around his body, across his body. So that is how he died. And that's natural because it sounds logical that if somebody does not take care of, their bodies, if they do not treat their bodies when they are diagnosed with a particular disease, then that disease might end up killing them. And cancer is one such disease. It does not play, right? As soon as we are diagnosed with it, we need to start early treatment. So that's the only way. Even sometimes when we begin early treatment, you might not still survive, but that's the best way to do it. As soon as you are afflicted with the disease of cancer or any form of disease, one ought to be able to, one should seek medical treatment. Now, in Jamaica, the culture also, we have a culture where men do not also take very good care of their health. Men tend to believe that they should be tough and and deal with it. So perhaps Bob was one of those. He was also young, right? Remember that when we're young, we think that we are young and invincible, and he perhaps thought that he was invincible and he was not going to die soon. But these are things, I'm just looking at possible thought processes going on in Bob's brain, trying to see, looking at how he might have thought. But the primary reason for his not seeking medical treatment was his belief in Rastafarian, the Rastafarianism, the Rastafarian religion, right? Because religion cures and religion kills rather, and religion cures, right? And in this time, his religion killed him. And didn't kill him intentionally, but the beliefs surrounding his religion killed him. Because had he sought early medical treatment, perhaps Bob would have still been with us. Maybe he would have had a missing toe, and who to tell, maybe he would have been able to get some sort of toe at this point in time with all the technologies we have in the world. But so much to say, be it as it may, the fact of the matter is that he died because of ignorance, right? In his religious faith. Now, there are also theories surrounding that in the 1970s, before or it was after the peace concert, it might have been, I think it might have been before the peace concert, that he was, while he was preparing for the peace concert, there was a gentleman, a very strange gentleman who had gone into his, while he was practicing, came up to him, because I'm sure Bob would have been receiving many foreigners and many people coming to talk to him, and they're watching, they're reporting, because he was at the time now a star, right? A superstar, even, at the latter part of the 1970s, so you'd have journalists and other people coming, and they would be observing him, writing about him, reporting on him, what he's doing. That's what people do when you become a celebrity, when you become a superstar. So because of the level of attention that Bob had attracted to himself, there was this strange person, according to a Daily Gleaner reporter, because he was also shot when Bob was attacked. And the fact of the matter is that this person, gifted him a pair of sneakers. And Bob thought that that was something nice, So, what do we do when we get a gift? He tried it on. And in trying on the pair of sneakers, he said he cried out, he writhed in pain, and he reacted in a way as if something bad had happened to him, to his feet. And it was after that incident that they realized that he started playing soccer again, that they realized that the toe was not as normal as it was before. There are some people who are alleging that that pair of sneakers had in it a sort of carcinogenic chemical that would have been infused into Bob's toe, and that is what gave him melanoma cancer. We can't say, because remember too that Bob smoked, and he was a heavy smoker of marijuana, but nobody would be, probably comparing or having that correlation between melanoma cancer and smoking. We more think of perhaps he would have contracted lung cancer, right? Or perhaps brain cancer even, because of this marijuana smoking. But that was not the case. He had melanoma cancer. Now, Bob when he saw that he was not going to survive, he went to Germany and of course the United States, but his final decision was to go to Germany to see if he could have been healed of it, because at this time he was also, taking treatment, but it was not really improving his health. So he does his last attempt was to have gone to seek treatment at a in Germany, right? And many people, there are some people who are sort of asserting that that doctor in Germany was also a Nazi doctor. I can't remember his name, but that he also worked for Hitler's uh, regime. So the fact of the matter is that his mother is on record saying that she visited Bob while he was in treatment at this medical facility in Germany, and she said that the doctor there was very, very, very much um, heartless in terms of his rendering service and treatment to her son. She is on record saying that he would push one of the times she visited Bob, she went into the room in which he was, having his treatment, and the doctor, that's the German doctor, pushed a needle, right, through his navel, right? And she said he did it in such a gruesome way that it caused Bob, profound pain, right? He was there writhing in pain, and she had to hold his hand and she had to rub his head, right, to sort of to help to soothe the pain that Bob had to endure. And, I heard Sidney Breakspear, that's one of his side chicks, as you call her, she suggested that that was not the best decision that they had made in hindsight to have sent him to Germany for treatment. But they perhaps thought he was known, that doctor in Germany, that German doctor, I'm just forgetting his name, was known as a very good doctor, and he had all the treatment. Remember now that Germany also was known for its medicine, particularly before World War II, right? Germany was a powerhouse in terms of medical science. So perhaps that was one of the reasons, and he heard about this particular doctor and the fact that he had alternative forms of medicine that perhaps could treat Bob. And remember now that Bob was against Western medicine. Maybe he thought that this doctor too was against Western medicine and had some form of alternative treatment. That did not help him, right? Because he went back to the United States, went back to Jamaica, and realized that the cancer had not been healed. And then he had to go back to Miami, where he actually died from cancer. There was also another person there's also another conspiracy theory. There's so many of them, right? That, Rita Marley, along with Bob's financial manager, wanted his money. They wanted $30 million from his estate, so they did all they could to have had him killed. I don't believe that. I think that Rita Marley would not have, killed her own husband, just the way in which she has rallied around the children in spite of the pain that he brought her, right? I don't think that she was that, what should I say now, money hungry, or, wanting his estate to kill her own husband. I don't think so, because, based on what we have seen before his death and after his death, Rita has been an excellent mother. Whether or not we like to say, that she should have left and she should not really have tolerated Bob, that is up to, her conscience. That's not my conscience to decide. She is the person who decided to stick with the nonsense that Bob was going on with in terms of his sexual escapades and his being with lots of other women. But we have to confess that she was an extraordinary woman, right? As he says, no woman, no cry. She she must have cried physically, but she was a strong, indomitable woman, Rita Marley. So I don't buy that. I'm not suggesting here that the manager perhaps could not. Maybe, I don't know. I have not yet read enough of that to be convinced that that might be a sort of reason leading up to his death. But we cannot at this point in time of our history begin to ignore other sources of information. We tend to sometimes rely on the mainstream information, but we have to look at other sources and to look fully, read as much many of these sources and see the consistency, right? If there is some consistency, in these sources, then that perhaps is nearer to the truth. We'll never know the full truth, but you can say that, let us look at, for example, at John F. Kennedy and the conspiracy theories surrounding his death. And now, all those conspiracy theories that people call conspiracy theories rather seem now to be coming to light, and it seems that those conspiracies were true, that the United States government and other interests, united in killing the president. There are other conspiracies surrounding Abraham Lincoln, right? And other presidents and, other presidents of the United States. And it seems to me that those conspiracies have proven to be true, because we're not living in an open, transparent world. We're not living in the world of the New York Times and the Washington Post, right? A lot of times what they say obviously is the official narrative, but it's not the official truth does not lie with them or with scholars per se, right? We have to read for ourselves, and we have to begin to search deeply for information. Some of us spend too much time watching soccer and football and listening to even music. We've got to move away from that now and begin to read and to discuss information that will help us to grow intellectually, and not only to grow intellectually, because we can't just grow intellectually, we also have to be able to develop the mind in which we can assess the world in which we live and understand it. Because if you're at this juncture, for example, saying that one political party is going to change the country in which you live, you are living in an illusion, because the two political parties, I can assure you, in your country, right, are controlled by the same forces. So you've got to be able to understand. And this presenting Bob Marley and the circumstances surrounding his death is to help you to think. I'm not here to say to you that you should think X, Y, Z. What I'm suggesting to you here this morning is that you will do your own research, and having a knowledge of how he died and how John F. K. died, or Abraham Lincoln, is not just to show that, oh, yes, I know, and you're able to go into some controversial discussion with your friends or with your families and so on. It is to be able to look at trends in your current society. Because even the recent health emergency, we're learning that what we were told of the origins of what you call it, I'm not going to call its name, right, of the virus, was not true, right? The official narrative was not true. So the fact of the matter is that we have to be careful in terms of how we accept different narratives. You must question. It's not going to hit. Sometimes it's going to save you, yes, sometimes, because what we saw during the health emergency, lives were saved because they decided that they were going to delve into the truth, and they were not going to always believe the official narrative, right? So the official narrative surrounding Bob's death is that he died of melanoma cancer. I believe that he died of melanoma cancer, but how did the cancer, attack his body? This is what we are not so certain about. And people tend to always say, when you say these things, conspiracies. Yeah, but how? You must always ask yourself something. You see what, but you need to ask how and why. How and why. And a lot of times when you ask these two questions, it might lead you into information that you thought you would not have been able to be privy to. But in our society today, we tend to always believe the what. What? Yes, so what? Yes, so people say, and then people begin to say, what happened to Bob Marley? He died of melanoma cancer. And, oh, that's actually it. You don't say, how did the cancer afflict his body and why? Right? And that will help you now to be a little bit more curious and to delve further into research and to be able to convince yourself, because you shouldn't have others convince you. You should read all the facts or all the narratives of the facts, the narrative surrounding the facts, to lead you to the truth. Because as I told you, facts are not truth. Narratives are not truth. The truth is the truth. And there's only one truth, whether we like it or not, because the truth is the truth. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to seeing you in the next chat. All the best to you. Bye-bye.